If if you're Canadian, it's more.
Yes.
I'm a fan as
Okay,
much
so
as much
okay,
as an
so
atheist can be a fan.
okay, well, I'll tell you what. Where would you like to start?
Well, I would like to start with that. It's very interesting to see someone who's very smart that is a theist, because it's such a hard concept to believe that when you start with origins, that something so complex as a god would be the beginning. I understand the position that they say God always existed, but for something so complex to either always exist or come into existence before simple life forms just seems like the most obscure type situation. It seems like simple life would start first and work your way up to
Well,
complexity.
God is
Why
not
would
complex. God is
okay,
simple.
why would God need to be complex?
Well, it seems like the definitions that I generally hear of God are like the most complex being possible, like something that even anything that thinks, anything that has a brain would be more complex than a one cell creature like an amoeba.
Okay. Well, first of all, in biblical theology, um, we don't hold to the complexity of God. We hold to the simplicity of God, and that human descriptions of God cannot be exhaustive, but it may be multifaceted. Okay,
Okay.
just like like a diamond can be multifaceted, but
Okay.
it's not really complex. These are just different aspects from our point of view of the simplicity of God, right?
Well, if you would
So
compare it to an amoeba, certainly God would be more complex than the most
okay,
simple life forms.
so all right, so just so we're on the same page, when we use the word God definitionally in this conversation, we're going to be talking about that which is ultimate and fundamental and the source of all possibility and impossibility, and is a mind. Okay. Now, whether God has further or extended attributes, we can discuss later.
But
Okay.
even God as a mind, though, even God as a mind is much more complex than a simple life form like an amoeba or a one cell creature.
No, what not? Why would it be? Why would? Well, first of all, do you mean uh, complex conceptually, or do you mean concretely?
I
Yeah,
mean,
because
like based on
guys,
the origin, like
Complexity usually refers to the working parts of something.
yeah, you talking about God's thoughts, which may be complex,
Yeah.
or his basic makeup.
I
God,
think.
God, God could have a complex of thoughts where He holds it in one giant thought, and it may be complex from our point of view, but it could be entirely simple from God's point of view. There are
Okay.
certain things that baffle children that don't baffle adults, and we think that it's not that complex. Okay, so I think you're conflating physical complexity with conceptual complexity.
I'm thinking of complexity all the way around. It's like the most complex being
Yeah.
compared to the most simple being.
Well, I don't agree with the I
Well,
don't
who
agree with
cares
the
if God's
definition.
complex or not?
Yeah,
It's because
I
I'm
What's the
don't.
thinking
problem with that?
the problem is when you're starting out in the beginning, it's simplicity. Like, I don't know if you're believers of the Big Bang or anything like that and evolution,
No,
but everything
no.
seems to be starting simple and working their way to complexity. And it doesn't start at maximum complexity and then
You're
start over
presupposing
at
evolution,
simplicity.
though.
No dogpiling, please. Okay. So let's just stick with the discussion of God. If you want to change later on a discussion about evolution or cosmology or cosmogony, that's fine. But let's just stick right now with the central issue: God or not God. Okay. So
I think you, Dart, have lined it out correctly. God is not a physical being; He's a spirit, and as such, He is not constituted by physical parts. And as such, He is a simple entity. A mind is a simple, but God can have complex thoughts.
yeah.
So
So in atheism, then what you will believe is fundamental is not a mind. In theism or God belief, and by the way, I'm sure you're aware that I only defend Christian theism. In Christian theism, God is that which is fundamental and is a mind. Okay, and that's the difference between our two positions. All right. So
Absolutely.
why? Okay, so why are you an atheist?
I'm an atheist for let's see, a long time, 44 years, 43 years. Started in
Wait a minute.
science class. I was told no matter what you were taught at home, this is what's really true. And they told me about evolution and the Big Bang. And
Biography.
I was
All
13
right,
years
please,
old.
please. I don't want multiple people jumping in on this, okay? Because this is his first time.
All right,
I
I'll
was-
shut up. My
Yeah.
apologies.
No, it's okay. It's just that this is his first time, and I don't want this guy to feel like he's being attacked from different sides.
It
Okay?
doesn't bother me.
Okay.
The piranhas are hungry, Darth.
The piranhas.
I've been an
Okay.
atheist since I was 13 years old, and
Okay, good. Okay,
ever
so
since
how
this-
did you determine that what is fundamental is not a mind? How did you determine that what is fundamental is impersonal?
well, again, it's going to be based on simplicity versus complexity. Why would something so complex exist and then start over with simplicity?
Having an unanswered questions does not necessitate the conclusion.
Okay, well, I believe that any consciousness would come much, much later than non-consciousness.
Okay, so it doesn't matter to me what you imagine. What I want to know is how did you determine that what is fundamental in existence, the source of all possibility, is impersonal? Do you know what is fundamental?
I believe I have an idea of my opinions, at least I could share with you.
No, I'm not asking you to guess. I said, do you know what is fundamental and is the source of all possibility?
Okay,
Do you know what
I'll
that? Do you
tell
know
you
what?
what I'll tell you. I believe that it has to do with the necessity for opposites. There's an actual physical necessity for opposites to exist. So everything is
Shut
based.
the fuck up.
You're not addressing. Hold on a second. Okay.
So everything is based on opposites, and the universe and beyond is actually a binary system, just like in
Well,
a computer.
stop.
Okay.
Okay. You're moving too fast. Okay. Are you saying that which is fundamental is enveloped or encompassed by some one or more parameters?
Two that make one. Everything and nothing.
Okay,
Combinations of everything and nothing.
listen carefully to the question. I'm asking you, what is it that is fundamental to everything? Okay. Do you know specifically what that is?
So it would be physics and science.
Okay. So science is a term of human apprehension of how things work. Okay. So
Okay.
human apprehension, it would not be what is fundamental. Okay. Now, if you say physics is fundamental, all right, now we're getting somewhere. So you believe that the laws of nature are what is fundamental and the source of all possibility?
Yes.
Okay. Are these plurality of laws? Is there anything that concretely unifies them, or are they independent of each other?
Well, physics would unify it. Physics
No, that
itself.
would no. You're not understanding. That would be a human abstraction. Okay, there's a that's why I said concretely. Okay, when you talk about physics, the term physics is a human abstraction about certain concrete relationships.
However,
Okay.
physics existed before humans.
Okay.
Just didn't have a name.
Okay. Well, listen carefully. Now, I want to know. Okay, what it is that's fundamental. Telling me laws of nature doesn't tell me anything. Is it energy? Is it matter? Physics is just simply a description of how matter and energy interact and behave. That doesn't tell me what's fundamental.
What I believe is fundamental are varying amounts and quantities of everything and nothing. It's a binary system
It's quantities of what?
of everything and nothing. Amounts and variations of everything and nothing. It's
Okay.
just like a binary system.
What is everything?
Everything started with the Big Bang. It was actually
Okay,
one
all right,
particular.
dude, listen
Yeah.
to me. You are failing miserably here. Okay.
Oh, I feel successful.
Can I step in?
No.
Damn it.
What you're not understanding is Either there's something that is singularly that's fundamental, or you believe that there's a plurality of things that are fundamental. Is it your position that there is a plurality of independent, non-unified particulars?
Okay, I believe everything and nothing were separate, and then they combined.
Okay, that's gobbledygook, what you're saying right there. Okay, listen
Okay.
carefully. Do you believe that there is either one thing is fundamental, that is the source of all possibility and impossibility, or you believe that there is a plurality of particulars? Okay,
Two
that
things:
dictate.
everything and nothing.
I think he's
Two
Yeah,
things.
listen.
Everything
This is about the
well,
fourth or fifth time you repeated that. Did
well,
you
'cause
not
that's
hear
the
me?
answer.
Did you not hear me reject that as gobbledygook?
Darth. May I?
Well, my opinion, it's not gobbledygook. I
Okay,
think
well,
it's real.
okay. What is it that is fundamental when you talk about everything? What is fundamental?
Okay, so originally everything was one substance. It was so compressed, but
What
then
is
it
it?
expanded
Okay,
into
so
nothing.
all right. You're talking about the cosmological concept of the singularity.
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you know that that's true?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Well, they figured out the Big Bang by when they
No, they
see the
haven't. They haven't
universe.
figured. Listen to me carefully. You are speaking, and I'm not trying to insult you. You are
Okay.
speaking out of complete ignorance. Okay, I can play for
It's
you. I can play for you right now a recording from Leonard Susskind, a world-renowned physicist, where he will talk about the standard model of cosmology. It's simply a paradigm. Do you understand that?
well,
It's
Edwin
they,
Hubble figured out the universe is expanding, and they
okay.
rewinded
Okay.
backwards.
Stop right there. The fact that we make observations of the redshift, okay, of the cosmic background radiation, it doesn't. It is not logically necessitated that everything was at one single point. It's not logically necessitated.
So you don't believe
Okay?
in the Big Bang?
No, I do not.
And you, how old
Yeah.
do you think? How old do
All
you think? How
okay.
old do you
We
think the
can get
world
to
is?
that. We can get to that momentarily. The point is simply this: what you are appealing to as a fact of the origin is just simply a current prevailing cosmological model. Did you know that before Edwin Hubble observed the redshift of the cosmic background radiation,
Hmm.
that the prevailing model among cosmologists was the steady state theory? Once that old guard died out, a new guard came in with a new model. And I'm sure you're aware of, in the history of science, it is littered with the corpses of previous paradigms and um, uh, explanations. Okay. So the fact that this is why it's called the standard model doesn't mean it's a fact. It simply is the most popular explanation of the origin of the cosmos. It doesn't mean that it's true. Is truth determined by how many people believe something?
No,
Good.
but
So then all you're simply doing then is you are appealing to the ubiquitous nature of the standard model. The fact that this is the prevailing paradigm in cosmology doesn't make it true.
same thing with religion. Just because you're
We're
appealing to
not
the book,
discussing that right now. We're not discussing that right now. Okay.
but it works
What
both
we're
ways.
discussing
Okay.
is you're telling me that what is fundamental was the singularity. And I say, do you know that? And you say, yeah, it was proved. No, it hasn't been proven. All it is the Big Bang cosmology. Okay, hold on. The Big Bang cosmology is simply a materialistic retrodiction in order to explain our past. And by the way, the reason why Big Bang cosmology has been adopted is because of the abandonment of the idea of God as creator. When did that happen? That happened into the mid to the late 19th century when Darwin came along with his theory of evolution, and the theory of evolution removed God from the sphere of rational discussion of origin stories. Once God was removed from the sphere of rational discussion as what is fundamental, then all they're going to consider is what is called methodological naturalism. Do you know what methodological naturalism is?
Nature by method, I would guess.
No, it means that the only explanations that we will accept for any phenomenon, either in the present or in the past, is simply materialistic or mechanistic. Okay?
Well, because
Now,
no supernatural thing has ever been proven.
okay. No supernatural thing has ever been proven. And how do you know that? How do you know that?
What has ever been proven that's
Okay,
supernatural?
have you ever are you omniscient?
What is that?
Means do you know everything?
Of course not.
Okay. Were you standing there on the third day after Jesus' crucifixion? Did you know that his body was stolen by his disciples? Do you know that it was stolen by the Romans? Do you know that?
I know that's the story. I don't hold much by the
Okay,
story.
all right, but you said that supernatural events have never been experienced. When you say proven, you're just saying is that you don't accept it. Now we're getting off on a tangent here, right? Now,
I wanted to actually ask, because the original question was, how is it that God doesn't exist? And you
yeah,
said that you know what's not God and what is ultimate. And maybe you didn't understand, but what ultimate means is that it doesn't begin to exist. It's eternal. So are
right.
you saying
Thank
this
you.
singularity, this
Yes.
singular point
Okay,
that has
and
all
how do you
matter in
know?
it,
Well,
is that eternal?
how do you know that the singularity is eternal?
It's a simple thing, so it'll be much more likely to be eternal than
Okay, stop right there.
than a
So now you're
complex
making
thing.
so now you're making an appeal to probability, which you've now cut your throat philosophically. So it's not necessarily true.
It's so unlikely for a God to exist
No,
that it can be.
you're not. Oh, okay, all right. Listen.
Can I
You
finish
got to
one
slow
sentence
down.
though?
You
I
got
just
to
want to
fold
finish
down.
this one
Listen.
sentence though. I just
Wow,
want to
dude,
finish the
you
sentence,
got to
please.
focus.
Let me finish the
You
sentence.
got to. No, I'm not going to let you finish because you cut me
Oh,
off.
I
Right?
thought I
Now
was
listen
speaking, but
carefully.
okay.
Listen. When you make an appeal to probabilities, then the conclusion is not logically necessitated. Do you understand that?
It gets to a point though where it gets to be so unlikely it can be ruled out.
Okay, good. Then do you believe in evolution?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't?
Okay, good. Okay, now,
Do you
do you
not
know what the
believe in
okay,
evolution?
listen. Are we going to have an adult conversation?
Oh, I thought we were.
No, you're beginning to act like a petulant 15-year-old.
I disagree, but
Right?
go ahead.
We're not okay. Of course you do, because you're very accustomed to your demeanor.
Okay.
Right? Now, are you consistent in using probabilistic as a heuristic device that you reason everything by probability? Are you consistent or arbitrary in probabilistic reasoning?
I try to be consistent.
Okay, so you believe in evolution, right? So do you believe that beneficial mutations accumulated and accrued in a linear molecular fashion to build all of the complex coding sequences within DNA?
Absolutely.
Okay, now what is the mathematical probability that one molecular unit of information will align in a linear fashion to reflect a long string of functional information? Do you have any idea what the probability of it is down at the molecular unit of information?
I wouldn't give it a number, but I'd say that since we're here, that pretty much proves that it
Okay,
happens.
well, I'm going to explain to you what the figure is. Okay, now down at the DNA level, there are 4 nucleotides. They are molecular structures that, when they're arranged in different sequences, they code for either proteins or they code for regulatory functions that the cellular structures execute. Okay, those molecular coding sequences that code for proteins are called codons, right? And it takes 3 of these nucleotides to code for one codon. A codon codes for an amino acid. When you have a long chain of amino acids, that's what we call a protein, right?
Okay.
Now, it can also be referred to structurally as a polymer. It is a long chain, right? So
Okay.
when mutations occur, they generally occur individually. Sometimes they can happen in groups, but they're individual. They're usually what we would call what's the word? I'm tired. I'm looking for it. They're usually called spot mutations. That's not the correct term. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Anyway,
Point mutations.
Point mutations. Thank you. It's because I'm tired, right? So we have point mutations. So we have nucleotide, 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 nucleotide. Now, a least complex protein has greater than 100 amino acids, but I'll pick the number 100 so we can hang our hat on it, right? And I'm just going to tell you this, not to disprove evolution, but to show you that you are absolutely flip-flopping on your rule of probability, okay? Now, in beneficial mutations generally are considered point mutations, but they can also happen in sets and groups, things like that. So you have beneficial mutation followed by beneficial mutation followed by beneficial mutations until it reaches a point of critical mass where it has it produces a functionality and an increase of fitness. And that increase of fitness will then provide for reproducibility and survivability. So each codon at a molecular level is a 1 in 20 chance. And the reason why is because there's only 20 amino acids that proteins are constructed from. So we have all different arrangements of amino acids in chains or polymers to make very complex proteins, right? So that's only part of the equation of biological life. But we'll just stick with that for now because it can get too complicated. So when you believe in evolution, you have to believe that these point mutations happen incrementally, one by one by one by one by one by one by one, right? In order to produce the functional coding sequences that will yield an increase of fitness. Now, each codon for a protein is a 1 in 20 chance. A second codon that would mutate would be followed by another 1 in 20 chance. So any two codons that would code for 2 amino acids in the chain of a protein is going to be 1 in 400. So any one is 1 in 20. 2 of them in a linear path will be 1 in 400. Okay? 3 of them will be 1 in 8,000. So when we add an additional coding sequence that we need to complete the chain, the improbability grows exponentially, not arithmetically. Do you understand that?
Okay.
Okay. Do you accept that?
Okay, that's fine. The only thing is that I would like to.
Do you accept that each additional coding sequence? Now, if we have a string of 100 amino acids, most proteins have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of amino acids in their polymer. But we're going to take a 100 amino acid chain for simplicity. So if we were to have each of the coding sequences would be 1 in 20 times 1 in 20 times 1 in 20 times 1 in 20. So if you had 100 of them, it would roughly be 1 in 10 followed by 100 zeros. Okay? That's the probability. That would be the probability. You have one chance in 10 followed by 100 zeros.
Okay. Does that include, though, natural selection?
Okay. It's not relevant to the discussion.
I think it is because that's what influences these changes.
You're not under. Okay, you're not.
Let me answer to that. Darth, let me answer to that. Your problem, strong atheist, is that you have to also explain the origin of life and the
No, stop. We're not doing that. Okay, I'm not trying to disprove evolution. Okay.
The fact that you're bringing up natural selection, you just don't understand evolution.
You're not
understanding how it
you have a typical you have a typical education in evolution, right? Because when you're educated in evolution, both at a primary level and a collegiate level, it's always natural selection, natural selection. We're not discussing natural selection. I'm granting that to you. The probability of the point mutations to produce the linear coding sequences it doesn't matter about. I can grant you natural selection. I can say to you, yeah, natural selection is simply a step-by-step survival. Mutation, increase of fitness, okay? And then selection takes place because you have a greater survivability. You have an increase of fitness in a given environment. So everything that I'm saying is taking for granted the idea of natural selection. Okay. Now, I am not arguing against the theory of evolution. I'm going to show you that you are going to completely flip-flop on an appeal to probability, that you are not consistent in reasoning probabilistically. You will appeal to probabilistic reasoning only when it suits you, when it's to your advantage. But when it's not to your advantage, you're going to abandon it. And I'm going to prove it right now, okay? So the odds of producing even a single protein are 1 in 10 followed by 100 zeros. Now, that's just one protein. Even the least complex microorganisms require an ensemble of complex proteins, numerous proteins. And that doesn't even include all the other complex sequencing within the DNA and the molecular working parts of the cellular machinery, okay? We haven't even gotten to that. Now, we're just dealing with one protein, right? Now, you think because of your poor education in evolution, all you need, the secret sauce for evolution, is a lot of time, right? That's the secret sauce that Charles Darwin thought. Well, Charles Darwin got it all wrong because he didn't know about the complexity of DNA. If I grant to you 13.7 billion years, they don't even go by that anymore. It's less than that, okay? But let's say I grant to you 13.7 billion years. And I'm going to be really generous. I'm going to give you 1 trillion squared Earth-like planets. Okay? Not 2 trillion Earth-like. I'm not saying 2 trillion Earth-like planets. I'm saying 1 trillion squared Earth-like planets. Now, exponentially, that would be 10 followed by 24 zeros.
So
okay?
I have a couple responses if you let me.
Now, hold on a second. Hold on a second. How can you respond when I haven't even finished my point?
I'll continue.
Now, whether I'm off by a few zeros is besides the point, okay? It doesn't matter, right? What matters is I am granting you an unimaginable, inconceivable number of trials. The way that you overcome a mathematical improbability is by a lot of trials, okay? That's why some people win the lottery, because the mathematical improbability is overcome by the number of trials, meaning the number of people who buy tickets. Now, if you have 1 trillion squared Earth-like planets, that's 10 followed by 24 zeros, right? And suppose we factor in a 13.7 billion years, and I'm going to give you, I'll give you 16 more zeros, okay? To more than compensate for the 13.7 billion years, right? So now, okay, you have 10 to the power of 40 zeros number of trials. You understand?
I understand.
10 followed by 40 zeros. Is that a gargantuan amount of trials?
Absolutely.
Is it inconceivable?
No, because it happened.
No, that's not
No,
what we're talking about. Yeah,
He means you
No.
can't
Well, you're
hold
looking-
that sum in your mind.
No, you're not you're
can't
not when
picture
I
that
say okay, yeah, okay. So you
Okay.
didn't understand what I meant. When I said
I
inconceivable.
absolutely understood. If you let me respond, I'd appreciate
No,
it.
you're not understanding. Let me finish. Okay. When I say inconceivable, I mean we cannot comprehend the number of zeros. That's what I meant by that. Okay. When I say inconceivable, I did not mean, well, it's ridiculous, therefore you shouldn't believe it. That's not what I meant. I meant it's a number so big that we just simply can't wrap our head around it. Okay. So you have 10 to the power of 40 zeros, the number of trials. Okay. In order for mutations to produce even one protein, for one protein. Now, the odds of forming that protein, right, is 10 to the power of 100. Now, remember you were in school and you reduced fractions? If we remove the number of trials of 10 to the power of 40 from 10 to the power of 100, you still have an improbability of 1 in 10 to the power of 60 zeros.
Okay. Can I just
Now,
say a couple things?
so do you now understand? Do you understand? If I said to you right now, I'm gonna if you give me $10, right? If you can guess a number from 1 in 10 followed by 60 zeros, I will give you $1 million. But if you
Right.
don't guess it, I get to keep your $10. Is that a worthy bet for you?
If I had billions of years.
No, you're not understanding it. You just have one chance. You have
No, I have
one
billions.
guess. You're not, dude. This is the problem. Listen, I'm gonna be very frank with you. You have an estimation of your understanding of science and math and all this kind of stuff and metaphysics. There's a lot you don't understand. I can tell by talking with you.
Okay, that's fine. Could I just respond a little
Now
bit?
listen
please?
to me. Listen to me.
Okay.
Now, when we remove the number of trials for mutations to produce even one protein, okay, I gave you 10 to the power of 40, right? Which you said it's an unimaginably generous number of trials. There's nobody out there that thinks that there are a trillion Earth-like planets. They may believe that there are billions of star systems, but a lot of scientists believe that all of the conditions that are conducive to permit life are extremely rare. Okay, but I'm giving you 10 to the power of 40 trials. But when we reduce the fraction, you now have a chance of 1 in 10 followed by 60 zeros. Now, that is what we would call beyond an astronomical improbability. Do you understand that that's your position?
Absolutely. Could I just respond a little,
Now,
please?
do you still believe in evolution in spite of its beyond the astronomical improbability?
Yes.
Good, which I have now proven my case. Because now you have abandoned probabilistic reasoning, because you're adopting that something could happen, okay, in spite of its unimaginable improbability. You told me earlier in the conversation that you reason probabilistically. But now when it comes to evolution, that you believe that a protein, just one protein, not a plethora of proteins, and also the other complex coding sequences of DNA that would be required for a microorganism. We're just talking about one protein. If it's one protein has a 1 in 10 to the 60th power, how much more all the other proteins that you would need? So you believe that evolution happened in spite of the unimaginable gargantuan improbability. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. And I'll tell you why.
Good. And have you abandoned probabilistic reasoning there?
No, because we exist.
Okay.
And
You know what? Listen. You're not very smart.
Okay, could I?
You are not focusing. Okay?
I'm not saying I'm smart. Is
evolution, as I have detailed it, as mathematically improbable as anything we could quantify?
It's certainly more probable than, as complex as we are.
We're not talking about anything else right now. We're not talking about anything else. All we're talking about is that one protein. Is it beyond astronomically improbable of occurring by chance?
I believe it happened. Okay.
That's not what I'm asking you. Okay. Again, you're not focusing. Focus on my question. Don't answer a question that I didn't. Okay. This is not an argument at the cafeteria table in 8th grade. Listen carefully. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
Is 1 in 10 followed by 60 zeros something that is astronomically improbable? Beyond astronomically improbable.
It certainly sounds it, though. I don't know how you came up with that number.
I just went through it the last 20 minutes.
You've said it a few times, but
okay,
the numbers.
You are. Listen to me. You are ill-equipped to carry on.
I'll take your word for it. It's a crazy high number. I believe that.
The point is this.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that evolution happened. Okay, that's a given.
Yes.
And absolutely. You believe that evolution happened in spite of its unimaginable astronomical improbability.
That's because you and I exist. Because of our
you're not focusing. Okay, listen to me, dude.
You're looking at it backwards.
You are a motor mouth. Listen
That's a
carefully.
non sequitur.
Your
by the way.
problem is this: is you're not willing to understand your own limitations. Okay, listen carefully. You are not understanding what I am trying to communicate to you, and you are changing. No, okay, overtalk me again, and I'm gonna mute you. And if you keep on doing it again, then I'll kick you. Okay, listen carefully. Whenever I try to focus on one issue, you, with your mind, you drift off because you're unfocused on some semi-related rabbit trail. Do you realize that you've been doing this the whole conversation?
No.
Okay, well, you have been doing it, and everyone in the room has been observing this. Now, listen carefully, okay? Now, you believe that what is fundamental to reality is impersonal, and because you believe that, you therefore conclude personal. Okay, now, I ask you, how do you know that? All you have simply done is you have appealed to the standard model of cosmology. Okay? Now, are you aware of the fact that in science, all conclusions in science are provisional? Do you understand that?
Sure.
Now, if a conclusion is provisional, then it means that it is not necessarily true. And by a re-examination of the primary data or by future observations in the future, that provisional conclusion could be falsified. Do you accept that?
Sure.
Then that means that you are saying God does not exist by virtue of a provisional conclusion that you hold to. But that provisional conclusion is not necessarily true.
Okay.
So when you say God does not exist, you're just saying God does not exist is because you have adopted a provisional conclusion that might potentially turn out to be false tomorrow or in the future. So a provisional conclusion cannot falsify another proposition unless your interlocutor or your audience accept the provisional conclusion as true. So do you understand your fundamental mistake?
I think anyone could have these views change. Your views could change too.
Okay, you're not focusing, dude.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I asked you a question. Is your belief that the impersonal singularity, is that a provisional conclusion, or is it absolutely truth and is unfalsifiable?
Pretty close to unfalsifiable.
No, sir. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully.
Yes.
Is it unfalsifiable?
Okay, I'll go with unfalsifiable. It's close enough.
Okay, good. Then according to many people in science, that's not science. That if a conclusion is in principle unfalsifiable, it is now removed from the realm of science.
Sounds like religion.
Okay. Do you know who Karl Popper was?
No.
Karl Popper was a great philosopher of science. I don't happen to agree with him on some stuff, but he nonetheless was a brilliant philosopher of science. Karl Popper came up with an idea. It's not universally accepted, but it's very popular. It's called the demarcation issue. That what we want to demarcate is between what is science and what is not science. Okay. Now, if something is not science, doesn't mean it's false. It just means it's not to be considered science. Now, you believe that the Big Bang, or excuse me, the singularity out of which the Big Bang derived, you believe that that's science. But within the domain of science, many scientists will tell you if it's unfalsifiable in principle, then it's not science.
Okay.
See your problem? Now, is your Big Bang cosmology a provisional conclusion? And by provisional means it's not necessarily true.
I believe it is necessarily true.
Then it's not a provisional conclusion.
Okay. That's what I believe.
Then it's not science.
Okay.
You might believe it's true. Good. Now, what I want to know is, okay, how do you know that the Big Bang happened from a singularity? How do you know that other than appealing to the prevailing
He'd have
other
to
than
tell us how the singularity is eternal. That was his claim.
yeah. So that's a good point. How did you determine that the singularity that exploded? See, even if the Big Bang cosmology is true, let's say for the sake of discussion that I grant you Big Bang cosmology, that still would not get you to atheism, because in order to get to atheism, you would have to show me that the singularity was itself eternal and ultimate. Can you do that?
How did you determine that nothing else instituted the singularity?
Yeah.
That it did
How
not
did you
begin?
how did you determine that the singularity is eternal and ultimate?
Okay, so I'm going by it's the most simple thing. It's an Occam's razor thing. That is the most simple
That's
thing
okay.
that could exist.
Stop right there. Stop right
And
there. Listen
and
to
we're
me carefully.
comparing it to a
Occam's
God.
razor. Listen to me carefully. Occam's razor is a heuristic device in order to simplify learning. It is not determinative. Okay.
Okay.
Principles of Occam's razors does not make them necessarily true. So there
Fine.
do not appeal to Occam's razor.
Okay, I'm comparing the simplicity to the
You're not
complexity.
understanding. Listen to me. Listen to me carefully. How did you determine that the singularity is eternal? Because you
Something
can't
had to be.
listen.
Well, first off, I feel
That's
that
fine. That's
that
fine. Listen to
Okay.
me, dude. I'm getting
Go
very frustrated with you.
Go ahead.
Okay, because
I'm
you
letting you
lack
talk so much.
focus. Yeah, you lack focus. Listen
Okay,
carefully.
I'm letting you talk.
I'm going to ask you a question, and you need to answer that question and not another
Okay.
question. How
Go
did
ahead.
you determine that the singularity is eternal?
Because everything always existed and nothing never existed.
That doesn't answer the question. That response, the fact that you believe that something is eternal is fine, but it doesn't mean that the singularity is eternal. How did you determine that the singularity itself was eternal?
And how did you determine that nothing never existed?
Yeah. Listen, what I want to know from you is how, listen carefully. How did you determine that the singularity is itself eternal?
Because everything always existed.
No, you're not understanding this. Do you know what the concept of the multiverse is?
Yes.
Okay, in a multiverse cosmology, they believe that there are bubble universes that come and they go. And the singularity would be the product of what we call a bubble universe. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and a multiverse cosmology is gaining popularity in certain areas in cosmology. So you see, that would mitigate against the idea that the singularity is eternal. Okay, and it would be ultimate, because then the singularity itself would be temporal and not eternal. So I want to know from you,
Okay.
how do you know that the singularity is eternal?
Okay. First rule of thermodynamics: energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Okay, all right, stop right there.
What about the
You,
second one?
you are failing on so many grounds. The first law of thermodynamics is just simply our conclusion that there is no man-made or natural way that we know of by which matter and energy can be destroyed. The first law of thermodynamics
Created or
is
destroyed.
you're not understanding, okay? The first law of thermodynamics is just simply saying that matter, we don't know that there's any way that matter and energy can be destroyed. It is not a declaration that matter and energy never came into existence.
It's created or destroyed, not just
You are really thick.
Wait a minute. Your position would contradict.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Here's the problem. If you hold to the laws of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics says that within a closed system, right, given enough duration, that the heat death of the universe will be achieved, right? But you believe, do you believe the singularity has been around forever?
correct, although not in
Good.
necessarily in this state.
Then guess what? If the singularity has been around forever, or in whatever state the singularity is, then the universe would have already reached heat death.
Okay,
Okay?
so
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Appealing to the first and second law of thermodynamics does not get you to an eternal anything. In order for you to state that something is eternal, you're going to have to be eternal yourself, or that which is eternal will have to be a personal mind that communicates to you that which is eternal. Do you understand your problem?
I understand my problem, but yours seems
No,
so
do
much
you
more
understand
monumental.
how are you able to determine are you able to determine that whatever you designate is eternal? How are you able to know that that itself is eternal and not something else?
It's what I believe, and it seems the
I
most
know you
logical
believe
way.
that. What is the reason? What is the rational justification that what you do believe is itself, in fact, internal and not simply the product of something else that's eternal?
It is actually part of something else that it's eternal. The thing that started the Big Bang was part of a larger
Okay, all right.
singularity.
All right. Listen, you are ill-equipped to carry on this grown-up conversation, sir.
Oh,
Are you just
you didn't
ignorantly
even let me
conjecturing?
respond.
You
I have
are
several.
listen to me. Listen to me.
I still didn't
You
get
are
to respond
so
to my stuff earlier.
you are so ill-equipped to carry on this conversation.
I feel like
And
I'm
you are
doing fine, but
and
I
no,
wish
you
you
no,
would let me
you're
speak a
no,
little.
you're not. You are speaking so much
It's not
ignorance that
fair
you
that I
don't
could
even
speak a
know.
little. I just
Listen
want to
to
say
me.
that as
How
complex as
do
we
you
are,
know? How do you know that which is eternal? How do you know what specifically is eternal?
how do I know what specifically is
Yeah.
eternal?
How
Something
do you?
has to be eternal, or
That's not the
it
issue.
would
That's not the
violate
question I asked you.
the
How do
first
you
law of
listen
thermodynamics.
carefully? Listen, my patience is growing out. Listen,
Yeah. Okay.
your arrogance is
Mine.
impairing. Listen to me carefully. Your level of arrogance about what you know, okay, is blinding you to the areas that you simply do not know. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to be very honest with you, and you can take it as an insult. I have teenagers that I talk to that are more adept at discussing these metaphysical and scientific issues than you are. Okay,
Fine that you say that. I mean,
you are out of your league, sir, for a grown man. Now
it's
listen
it's
carefully.
better for you to tell
Okay,
me that than even let
listen
me
to me
respond.
carefully. This is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to go on from here on out. Now, I ask you a question. If you give me an answer to a question I didn't answer, I'm going to remove you from the room. I'm not wasting my time anymore with you. I stopped a review video tonight because you wanted to come in here and speak with me. Now,
Sure.
I expect you
Appreciate
to reason like an adult and conduct yourself like an adult. Now, listen carefully.
Okay.
How do you know specifically that which is eternal?
It's, to the best of my knowledge, what makes the very most sense to me.
That doesn't
And it's
answer the question. That was
well,
a vacuous response.
what else? What
Listen
else could it
carefully.
be?
Do
What
you know specifically what is eternal?
everything and nothing.
Okay. That is a non-answer. That is non-informative. Okay. Do you
Okay.
know what specifically is eternal?
I did answer this before. The singularity
All right.
and
Okay.
and
How
nothing.
do you know that the singularity is itself eternal and not a burped out universe from a multiverse?
Even if it was a burped out,
Do you
then
know that the singularity is not a
it,
bubble universe
it
popped out from a multiverse?
it still would have existed somewhere else.
Is the concept of a multiverse false?
It's not known for sure, but I wouldn't.
Okay, listen
I
to
would.
me
I
carefully.
would.
Listen, dude, I'm telling you right now, for your own good, my patience with you has almost run out. And the
Oh,
reason
I've been so
why,
nice to
listen
you.
to
I've
me
been so
carefully.
nice.
Listen to me. Yeah, you have been fairly cordial. I will give you that. But my patience is running out with you. Do you want to know why? It's because
Why?
your arrogance your arrogance blinds you to your own ineptness. and an inability to understand these subjects. You totally lack focus in this entire conversation. Now,
I'm doing my best.
do you know that a multiverse is a multiverse false?
I couldn't tell you.
If you can't tell me, then you can't claim. Then, if you don't know the answer to that question,
I would believe
listen.
that
Don't overtalk me. Don't overtalk me.
Sorry.
Now, you told me that the singularity is not only eternal, it's ultimate. And if it's ultimate, then you have to say the multiverse is false.
Why?
Because I asked you, what is it that is fundamental, the source of all possibility? And you said the singularity. If the singularity is fundamental, then a multiverse is false.
There could be other singularities.
All right, bye-bye. You're an idiot. You are brain dead. Bye-bye.
Well,
You're done.
Could I speak?
Wow. God, the guy has the mind of a 13-year-old.
If I may steelman him a bit, I think he was trying to go for an
No, what do you mean steelman him?
No, that's not the right term. I'm sorry. My bad. What would you call it when you try to build up somebody's argument from their side in order to improve their understanding?
No. Goose. You're well-meaning. I understand what steelman is. This guy was convoluted. He was flipping and flopping. He didn't have any ability to focus on any line of reasoning whatsoever. It was like dealing with an ADD 14-year-old.
He's very cordial.
He doesn't know your narrative, which you brought up with the protein sequences. That was an argument which I made when I called in at the line with Jimmy Snow. And if you want to review it, I think that was a fun call.
We can do that. I have a trouble listening to Jimmy Snow. He's a drama queen.